Hello, hello. Let's pop that out. Okay. I just need to tweet that I am live. Okay. Dog is drinking some water. All right. Today I have the chat pulled up on my phone. So hopefully that means I will be noticeably more reactive and responsive to your messages, thoughts, questions, suggestions, what have you. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to see who wants to jump in at the start. Hey, Marco, can you hear me? Can you see me? Let's do a quick tech check. You can see my screen. All right. I have done a bit of work since we ended the stream last night. I merged your pull request to bump the application to use Ruby 3.3. I also finished the manual labor to replace all of the SVGs with the icon helper. Then I was tweaking some spacing. What specifically was I doing? So I came back to Superlist and I was sort of studying what they were doing here in their details view. And also what they were doing here, just like as I played with the viewport. And yes, I did replace all of the SVGs by hand. I genuinely think it's faster than if I tried to automate it to catch all of the edge cases and stuff. So I saw a couple of things. So I've tweeted about this. I saw this interaction for this notice, which I liked and I wanted to replicate. But that has nothing to do with spacing. What I noticed was there is I wish I could like force these things to stay visible. There is a max width that is constraining this view. And then there is some padding. And I was hard coding the padding to basically be what looked pretty similar to this. But if you shrink it down a bit, it's a smaller bit of padding. So I was exploring how can I keep this full width label, but have this max width, this padding. And that's what these 3 commits are. We don't have to like look at all of them. This one is like a tiny first one. That's not even about that. I was just coming into here and this is that view. Trying to really get these to match up as much as possible. So like the spacing around this is slightly different. So I went down from 3 to 2.5. And in the details view, let me go to a details view. I saw that it was more like a 55-45. Not perfect, but closer. So that's what that commit was. And then these 2 commits are getting that behavior. So I had to retweak the form. Basically, you'll see these 3 classes in a lot of places. So throw a max width on there, throw a fixed padding value on the x-axis, and then center if there's excess space in the middle. So I created this div inside of the label so that the label stays full width and sort of constrained the width here. And that is the first line. So that's going to contain our icon, our input, our keyboard shortcut signal, and our person popover. And then on the second line, so now these 2 divs are siblings, I apply those same constraints to ensure that these 2 are right underneath our input. So I don't have to mess with flex wrap or anything now. Now this is just a regular flex container. And then I just applied the same thing to the index view. And there you'll see, so PX, balanced padding on the x-axis, constraining our width, centering things. I'll talk a little bit about this. This is the implementation of our notice to behave like that. So just to catch everyone up on the work I have done in between streaming sessions, just trying to keep the skeleton doing what we want. So that just the last little thing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, is this interaction. So I tried to reproduce that in a Tailwind playground and built a container query to make this work. So what we do now, the internals are all the same. Our p tag is wrapped in a container, and that container by default uses the constrained styles. So what do we see in the constrained styles? So it's not rounded full. It is rounded 2XL. And it has padding. Let me actually pull this down here so we keep them together. It has this padding all around. So that is the default state. Then we add the container query. The container query, you'll see, adds a min width condition. So this is a magic integer here. I just played with this to see when do we go from overflow to not overflow. And you gotta get this magic integer right. On our container, which is the width that we care about. And it is 668. So at 668 pixels, I round it fully, so to create that pill shape, and I drop the padding. Hey, Rinaldi. Nice to see you. Feel free to ask any questions or comments as you go. So this is actually the first container query that I have written, but I like it and it does what I want it to do. So I threw that into here as well. But it isn't working presently because I need to bring in the plugin. So let's start by doing that. We're going to do, and just to see, we're in a fresh, right? All right. So let's add the container queries plugin and then get it into our config file. Oh, wrong. Clipboard history there. Like that. Okay. I think we're going to need to restart this server. And let's come back and see. Did I do it on the show view? I might have only done it on index. Let me go and check. So we've got this. By the way, I also fixed, so you'll see here in this broken state, when we are in constrained space, our icons and our buttons look wonky. So fix that by adding min width 8 as well. And that's going to force them to stay at our, whoops, I want the whole div at our size. So now let's bring this over to show. Yep. And look at that. And does it come? Yes, nice. I honestly could just look at these small interactions like for 15 minutes. They bring me such joy. Let's commit that. put the container query notice in the task show view. Just go ahead and push both of these changes up. All right, so foundations are solid enough. So let's turn our attention to the primary focus for today, which is to make this section look more like this. So I like to start by just breaking down what I see, what I care enough to try to bring over, how I understand, because again, we can't view source, how I understand the HTML structure. So as I've already talked about from one of the commits I did earlier, I wanted to adjust the width distribution here. So they keep the main section, right? They don't fully balance them. It's not a 50-50 split. The main section is still wider than the detail section, but they're close to 50-50. So I went with a 55-45 split. If you see in the previous streams, you'll know that we're just using a grid column layout, and we're using the fractional units to distribute this remaining space. So this is a fixed width, and then we distribute the remaining space proportionally. But coming in here, we've got this, which is button looking, has this hover effect. We get lighter, the background gets lighter, the icon gets lighter. But for our application, behaviorally, this is a link. So it takes us from a task show view to the inbox here. It's inbox. This for us is just like the tasks index view. So we have a link. Then we have this button. This button update. So that's going to be a button 2 that we will eventually build, but we don't even have that attribute on our model yet. This is some AI stuff, upgrade to pro. Don't know anything about it, so I'm just going to ignore it and drop it. We've got another popover menu, unsubscribe. Not 100% sure what that functionality is, but copy link, mark all incomplete. They have this structure of nesting tasks. I'm not sure if we will get around to that and delete tasks, but just a popover menu, just like our other popover menus. Then we have the task title, but the task title is an input, and it is editable. And it has the same 3 additional popovers. So you can set the assignee, you can set the duet, you can set the labels. This sort of top section has this different background color. Then you have the body. As I talked about last time, they're using a block editor. I actually do have some thoughts. At some point, I want to experiment with just like building something like this, just with like morphing, like do it all on the back end. But we're not going to do any of that with this. We'll just throw an action text block in here. But again, we don't have that attribute or anything. So there's just like a body. There's some metadata. Who is it created by? How long ago was it created? And then you can leave a message. So they have this little input down here. So as with the other streams, I wanted to scaffold out the HTML and the tailwind for this so that here on the stream, we could focus on like the actual Rails part. So this afternoon, I made this playground. And we've got let's just like really quickly go over the basic structure. So this is what is in our application layout. And this is what is yielded. So this is what we're actually going to render in our show view. We need to pass down full heights, make sure everything is full height so that we can stretch this and push all this to the bottom. And we've got our, background rounded card here. Inside of that card, we put an article. So this is where we're going to render the task partial. Okay. That task partial will be an article with a DOM ID and a columnar flex container. It's going to have three parts. It's going to have a header, the main section, and our form here at the bottom. For now, the main section just has our little attributes text that we put down at the bottom. So we have this grow inside of its flex container, fill out the space, push everything to the bottom. Our form doesn't do anything. We just put our input, style it the way that we want. Most of what we're doing is up here in the header. Header, two parts. It's basically this section here and this section here. And I think I want to change that. I'm not sure. I like those semantics. But up top, we're just going to put our three elements. So we've got a link, we've got a button. This will eventually become like a button too, but we'll just throw a button in there. And we've got our details popover, z-index stuff, right? Well, I look forward to when we get to the place where we can start using the popover API. Then in our, I'm actually gonna drop this right now. Then we've got a form, and it's going to follow the same basic structure that we had in the main section, just without like the keyboard shortcut indicator and playing around with that. So there's our authenticity token input. Then we've got our text input, which we increase the font size on, get it looking like this. We put our assignee popover, then our collection of do-at and labels underneath. HTMX gang is everywhere. That's true, but I think I'm on good terms with the HTMX gang. I'm not too nervous. And that's about it. So I think pretty straightforward. So let's just start scaffolding that out, and then we'll start wiring the different functional bits up. So I'm going to just start by grabbing the article. I don't think I need this right now. I got this all messed up. And coming in here. Let's get our spacing queued up. And that is good for now. Where is this? Ruining my code folding. And let's just see what we got. Hey, hey, looks good. Totally static, but that's okay. Good. First step, let's commit this. Copy the scaffolded HTML for the task details section. So the main thing that we need to do is wire this form up to be appropriate. So I'm just gonna come up here. We want this to be an actual form. Not sure if I'm going to need that at the outset, so let's leave it. This actually reminds me, I don't think I have a label. Yeah, I don't have a label on here. Let's see if they are. So I'm not getting into the input when I click over here. This cursor shows me that the borderless transparent background input stretches all the way to here. Got a little bit of a gap before the button. Yeah, so there is no label. I don't think we need a label. We just fill out the input. So let's grab these two things now. What do we have? I don't need this. And let's grab the styles. And pulling in that. That's going to be on. That's going to be on. And let's just copy this over for now. Oh, and we're going to need to put classes on the form. Oh, and we need our hidden input. And I'm going to come over here. Just look at this. Let's okay. Form is submitting. Cool. Let's come down here and let's make this a little bit more real. This is something I have done on another project. Where did I put this? Was it here? Wait, let me look for a go. No, it's not here. Let me do a quick search. Time tag ago. Oh, right. I did it in solid errors. Oh yeah, we can do one level of enhancement. I think this is a pattern I've used a couple of times. I use it in the solid errors gem. Um, yeah, local time gem is nice. I have gotten more maniacal about not bringing in dependencies. I really have a very strong preference for keeping as much of the code in my repository as possible. And when I do bring in dependencies, I want to feel very confident that I need them as a dependency. Just a quick, like, small tangent. I have had this vision for a tool that I want to build, and hopefully, maybe at some point, I will build it. Um, Honestly, part of the stumbling block is I can't think of a good name, but something like Bundler, but for copying and pasting code into your project, um, where it would. So I'm imagining something where the equivalent to the gemfile.lock file is a manifest of these files in the repository mapped to these files on GitHub. Like, here's the full URL. And you can run a command which would go and fetch the contents from GitHub and write them back into those files. And then we just delegate the problem of conflict resolution to the developer and Git, right? So just like nuke and pave the file, pull down the current head of those files. And yeah, putting a bit of a CLI around, I want, in the simplest version, just mapping GitHub files to local files, but keeping that mapping alive such that you could run the equivalent of bundle update and pull those things down. One example of that I've used, if you've used Jumpstart or Jumpstart Pro, yeah, a tool to vendor the files into your project, exactly. But like to vendor them directly into your code base, as opposed to like putting them in a vendor directory and treating them as dependencies, or either, right? Like you can put the files wherever you want, which is, I was originally inspired by this idea because I quite like the way that Jumpstart Pro puts a lot, not everything. There's like a lot of stuff in lib, but there's a good amount of stuff that's like in app. And one of my favorites is the new app clients directory with the application client, right? So you just get this base object to make HTTP requests to APIs, right? And all modern applications need that functionality. I have felt similar pain that Chris has felt, right? Where you're like, you go and grab this wrapper to talk to GitHub, get the GitHub API gem, and I need to also talk to Jira. So I grab the gem to talk to Jira, and I also need to talk to Slack, and I grab the gem to talk to Slack. And each of those three gems are using a different HTTP adapter gem for them. So like now your project has like 3 different HTTP adapters. The code for these 3 different gems is organized completely differently. The sort of UX that they expose to you for making API requests is completely different. And it's just like a mess. And it's like, what is it even buying us, right? Like, we're just talking to RESTful JSON APIs. So I really like that philosophy of the application client, right? Like, just own that responsibility, own that task, put it in your repository. And I also like though that sometimes you have people. I think this is really really true in like stimulus controllers, right? There are a lot of really great stimulus controllers in the open source world, but most stimulus controllers, it's like a file less than 100 lines, and I would rather have that file in my repository, make sure, give myself the challenge and the responsibility to like, I have to own this and understand this and be able to maintain and evolve this. Um, but also recognizing like when I have a problem, I go and search for a pre-existing stimulus controller because there probably is one. There's a lot of good ones out there. So that's a complete tangent, but that is why I am not going to pull in the local time gem to come out of that tangent. I've got no problems at all. I have a stimulus controller too for doing localizing the time on the client side. Not going to mess with that right now, but yeah. And this is like a little extra pattern that I like to throw a time tag inside of a abbreviation tag to um, allow you to see when precisely did this occur, right? So we sort of, um, this UX is nice. Like I like simplifying things and providing relative time. So this was created 22 hours ago, but oftentimes, not oftentimes, but sometimes you do need to know like when actually was this created. And this is a really simple pattern for doing that. But for CNET is not a thing. But task created at is. Let's drop this. Let's see what this does. So larger text, but just to show you that little ABBR interaction. And of course, we can format this title however we want. We could do just the default to formatted string, to formatted S, I guess it is. Yeah. Yeah, which that looks a bit nicer. But let's see if we can shrink this down. I wonder if I did this in solid errors. Solid errors in. Okay, let me just open up that gem. Gems. Solid errors. Yeah, okay. Hey, I did. Nice. So sometimes we want, like we have here, a more abbreviated style for time ago to use for the time ago helper. So what you can do is you can provide your own namespace under the date, time, distance in words namespace. And you can just copy all of the keys from Rails. Like this is just all the different ones. And set your own values, which I've done before. I know that this is like a little bit cheating because I'm doing a fair bit here of copying and pasting, but I've solved these problems before. I don't feel like typing all this stuff up. And so then what you can do, let's come in. let's go like to errors. And time ago. Yeah. And so then when you use the time ago in words helper, you just pass a scope and point it at your new namespace. And Superlist, yeah, they kept a go at the end. So I will keep a go at the end. And so now we've got, I'm formatting it a little bit differently. They just sort of, I imagine they round. I throw this little symbol in here to show that we are approximate time. And then we give the exact time here. But there we go. Thank you, Solidaires. Obviously, we need to add users, tasks belong to users, pull that stuff in, but same thing down here with messages. But we're doing baby steps. I think let's commit this in batches. Update the task detail title form to use the Rails form with helper. Under the actual with a custom set of localizations. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is to add this link here so that we can jump to the appropriate show page. And I am now feeling just enough pain around having this section duplicated. So I have it here in the index view and here in the show view that I want to extract it. So I'm going to call, I don't know, I'm just going to call it main for now. Naming is hard. And let's make sure we are. Let's use this new Rails feature to define the variables required for locals. Though I have to look up partial optional arguments comment. Let's come to this blog. That looks right. So for this partial, we're just going to require tasks. And so we can come here, we can render main, we'll say tasks, our tasks. We do the same here. Let's see if stuff is looking the same. And then let's go back to index. See that? Yeah, okay, cool. Looks good. Move the shared main section content into a partial using the new magic partial comment to declare the required arguments. Go ahead and push that up. Going to try to keep pushing, regularly, so y'all can pull this repository down. Feel free to play around. So we have our rendering here, and we did not implement all of the little bits from the sort of static version. So let's start adding them. And also, I guess to be fair, the static version doesn't have, this is me experimenting with the spacing, doesn't have our link either, actually. But let's get this. Actually, I think this, the second one is the one that doesn't have any value there. So let's just use the, whatever. We'll use the first one. And now I can just delete those. Don't need them. And don't really have like a value there, so let's drop that. And we don't really have a list. Let's drop that. Just sort of keep these things around. Going to be fun to wire that up. Let's do this together. Ensure the render tasks, the main section list have the various buttons and buttons and links. And now we need to add a link. Oops. I think it goes, person, then link. So this is our person. So we're going to say link to task to some classes. We're going to throw an icon in here. I bet the name is arrow right. And what size is this? We'll just copy what we are doing over here. Might not have quite enough space. We'll have to see. It might overflow. No, okay, there it goes. So to push the task list to beneath. Well, you look at that. And let's do some scrolling. I need to fix this. But whatever, comparison point. So that was like, so this is like standard turbo drive behavior. So I guess that it's not morphing because the URL is changing. Does anyone in the chat know about morphing across URLs? Or we could make it such that clicking this link down here would update this card, but we would keep our scroll position. I'm going to commit this. I'm not seeing any messages in chat, so I'm guessing that we do not know. However, this is making me think. I want to see how they handle overflow in the Y direction. So I just want to create some tasks. Do you ever notice that you type worse when you try to type better? Gotta get out of my own head here. Okay. Yeah. So this whole thing becomes a scrolled container. Let's really briefly do some experimenting. Yep, it's you. I'll say overflow Y auto. Yeah. So at the top of our main here, say hfull overflow Y auto. Let's refresh this page. There we go. That's nice. And then we do a comparison point. And it resets. So I really want to figure out how to preserve this scroll position while navigating from, let's say, task 4 to task 1. But I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to get too bogged down. It's kind of like a finer grained detail. So I'm going to create an issue and we will come back to it. Preserve scroll position in main section when navigating to a new URL. If you navigate from tasks to tasks ID, appears that morphing is disabled. Cross URL navigation, I presume, disables the behavior, and regular turbo drive behavior is seen. Now, I know we could do this with turbo frames, and maybe we do it with turbo frames. I want to explore a little bit, though, to see, to learn more about this. morphing functionality, like to learn, is this presumption true? I feel like I read something about that once, but it's very fuzzy. Sure that the scroll position in the main content section is preserved, even when navigating to a new URL. Or from, let's just say, this is important as well, tasks 1 to task 2. So at some point, we want to solve this problem. So I'll throw that issue in there. And while we're looking at the issues, I threw a few of them up on GitHub today just to start organizing my thoughts. And also because I thought that maybe if someone is interested, we could allow someone else to pick up one of these and work on them in parallel. But roughly, it's like we need users to have assignees and creators. We need lists, right? So there's lists, and a task can belong to a list optionally. Once you have users, you can add the task assignee reference. We want to add the labels field and wire up that popover correctly, the do at field, description field, completed at field. Task can belong to a list. Lists themselves have this, I'm calling it pinned, for whether or not they show up in the left navigation sidebar. I think they have a title for that. We need to add this little sorting widget. It's like a mix of like a sorting and grouping widget. So like this, it's grouping, sorting and grouping, but this is just a sorting mechanism. This is just a sorting mechanism. Grouping. Anyway, build that. And we need to do this. So if you have some interest in picking one of those up, let me know. For some of them, I've included some screenshots of the Superlist UI for what's going on there. Okay, anyway, let's jump back to this. I don't think we need this anymore. I'll just leave. I don't think we need this anymore. Clear out some tabs. We are at a crossroads now. So I'm interested to hear from you on what you would like to focus on next. Just a quick refresher on what we do have done, right? So like we have tasks in our database. We can create a new task. We can view and edit the task. Right now, a task only has a title. So creating and editing is just working with that title. We have our index view and our show views. And honestly, like already, we haven't done a ton of work. This has mostly just been, getting the HTML together, but also like, there's not a lot of JavaScript. We have one stimulus controller for our input here. But like, this is already not like bad. This is not a bad UI or UX. Like I'm genuinely pretty happy with this. But a lot of areas to improve. So generally, we could go down one of two paths. And I'm interested to see which path you want to go down. So path one is explore view transitions to add a view transition for going from the index to the show and for going from show back to index, just to give you a sense of the interaction on Superlist. So there's like a bit of a expansion of the width of this section. So shrink, expand, shrink, expand. And then in addition to that, we have a kind of fade in, fade out of the image. Or maybe it's sort of the image is sliding in a little bit. Let's see here. Hard to see. I have to slow it down. So we could go that route, right? Learn about view transitions, try to get some basic view transition wired up. Or we could leave this as it is. So no view transition. It's just a load and morph the pages. Or I guess not morph the pages in this case. It's just turbo drive. And we could instead focus on adding some functionality. Right? So we could do one of these. We could add the labels field and wire this up. We could add the completed at field and wire this up or this up. What we could, make the sorting Z index fun. What do you want to do? / what do you want me to do? I'll give y'all 30 seconds to write in the chat your preference. Well, I don't see any preferences for now, and that's okay. So we're going to end up doing them both. Let's try view transitions. It's something I don't know anything about. Maybe it's not here. I know that. Wait, code.avi.nyc. I know that Avi just wrote about this, so I'm going to pull up his blog. Step 1, let us add the meta tag. Let's see what this does. Okay, we got that. We got the crossfade. We want to, I think, target. I'm not sure all the right language. Let's keep going here. Yes, focusing the transition to an element. That's what we want to do. So we can focus on a specific element. All you have to do is give the presence of the elements you want to focus the transition on the same view transition name property. Let's see. I honestly don't know if there is. No, there isn't. Not a tailwind class. So we'll do the same. I like this better. Maybe actually down here. I wonder if we can put it on this style, and let's make this ERB. Actually, I guess I don't need this in the scope. We'll just say view transition name aside. I don't know. Let's see what that does. Okay. That already looks better. Yeah, it is. But we can take control over what the animation looks like. I think he wrote about this. Turbo frame complications. We're not using frames, so let's ignore it. Yeah, let's copy this. Let's see. I'm just gonna start off by reusing his animation, and then we will change the animation. So we called this aside was the name of our view transition. That's a fun little animation. Okay, so it's working, right? So we have, what have we done here? Right, so when you declare a view transition name, you can write a CSS selector for that view transition name and define your own animation, and that animation can use custom keyframes. Let's see what animations they have. They don't have a lot. Let's look at animate CSS and grab some that look good. What is back in left? I don't know. Slide in. Nope, slide in. I should really name this slide in from. That would help me. I'm getting this backwards. Let's start there. What did we just get? Okay. We got a name. I want to get your You're going to make me go to GitHub and read your source. This is another example where I'm being maniacal about not bringing in a dependency because I don't need like all of these animations. I want one, maybe two of them, and I don't want all of this extra stuff. Slide out. No, we want slide in. Sliding entrances. Slide in right. All right, so we've got these keyframes. Let's say slide in right, and let's do slide out left, I guess. You come out here, slide out left. No, okay, that's slide out to the, okay, slide out right. I do not have the correct intuition for these names, clearly. I'll just add that. And we will slide out right. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. That's slower than I want. Let me just carve that in half. Yes, exactly, Marco. That's what I want. And maybe I'll get around to building it. So this is, I mean, it's closer, but it's not quite. Like they are. I feel like I can see what's happening with the animation better when I go from show to index. I'm sort of focusing on that. I feel like the details view slides out fast, so slides out to the right, and then it seems like the card sort of slides in from the right a little bit slower, maybe with a bit of a fade. Let's see. New version of OrbStack. How do you deal with that later? So let's slide out twice as fast as we slide in. Let's start there. What the hell happens with that? Yeah, I guess it is applying the same back and forth in both directions, right? It doesn't know about aside from show to index or aside from index to show presently. Turbo streams. This doesn't have that. I feel like view transitions. View transitions from page A to B. I don't know. Let's skim this. Animating an element present on both pages. Yeah, Marco, I'm not sure, right? I need a way. So what I think is happening, right? So like this, if I don't know, let me study this a little bit more. It just feels like it's slightly different. So this is going from index to show, and on index to show, uh, let's see if let's see if the image slides out quickly, and then the content slides in slowly. Yeah, I do have two different animation names. Um, but yeah, I guess that was kind of. Maybe I just need to add a bit of a fade. Fade out, right? Ah, this word. Yeah, I'm not a master of CSS animations. Let's see what this does. But it might actually not need to change. I'm not sure. Yeah, that looks weird. Let's see what happens when we reverse it this way. That looks better. I feel like maybe we should add an animation name on this as well, so that we get the sort of a more fluid expansion and contraction of the width. See that? Doesn't seem like it is doing that. Let's throw an animation name on this element. Maybe we'll call you main. And let's just see, just putting a name on it, what that does. Yeah, that's smoother. But it's got a bit of a elastic shrink. But yeah, I think to me, it looks like throwing the backwards on the new transition. I got to play a little bit with that fade there, like the card, but I think that looks nice. And then I want to make this a little bit more width. I don't know. I just want this to visually expand and contract. Does it do that? Let's see here. No. Just experimenting. How do we turn an animation off? In a particular context. Hey, Adam. Where's the link to MDN? We are messing around with view transitions, trying to make this look nice. Nice to meet you, Adam. If you know anything about view transitions, happy to hear your wisdom. Here's what we are going for. And I'm very much in the stage of trial and error here. So if we focus on this main section here, when we transition from, let's call this the show page to the index page, this main section here is going to just widen out, have a nice smooth widening. And when we transition from the index to the show, it will shrink its width. So that is one view transition that we want. When we look at what is happening to this right-hand section, the aside, as we have it named in our Rails app, when we go from the index to the show, the image will slide out, I think, really quickly, and then the content fades in a little bit more slowly. Is it sliding or is it fading? What are you doing? I so wish I had control so I could just slow this down and see. It's so frustrating. Let's see what happens. We just comment one half of it out. Argument order. You mean of my animation? No, come on, let's just stay in Chrome here. Come on. Yeah, maybe. So we can do this. We're gonna use ease, duration delay. Let's not delay. Let's slide out right. I mean, it seemed like it was working, but well, that was weird. What is going on there? Let me just put the other one back in and see. Yeah, the image does stay. I've played around with a couple of things. So over here, what element I put the name on. So originally, I put it here, which ensured, so the image would be on both. When we put it here, they sort of look like they're in like a carousel, like swapping which one goes on top. No. I wonder if I can write like that. Yeah, that looks a bit smoother. But when we have it defined here on this outer wrapper, it also animates these, which Superlist doesn't do. And I also don't want to do. I don't, it's extraneous. It's a completely unnecessary animation. So I'm trying to figure out how to animate from the image to the partial, but to not animate from partial to partial. That's one thing I'm trying to figure out. A second thing I'm trying to figure out is how to animate this more like purely its width and not, it's doing this fade. But I didn't see like a width animation here. Like I want something like expand. CSS expand animation. Let's. I don't know what that is. I don't see keyframes, so I'm skipping. Okay, expand width animation. Let's, yeah, maybe I don't need an animation. I think I called that main. Yeah, I did. I am throwing things up against a wall. I'm just curious to see what happens. Yeah, it's still doing the fade. I guess I would need to add, let's see what we do. Say animation none as well. I don't want it to fade. Why is this seems to be moving? It's height as well. What's up with that? I'm sort of like jumping. I'm just gonna try to mark with my thumb here. No. I want some keyframes. Decline. Bunch of JavaScript. All right. This. What are we doing here? Yeah, okay. From 0% to 100%. So this expand. And we'll do an inverse contract. Oh, hey, that's wild. Oh, backwards on both. I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that. Let's drop you out. Why are you coming out of left field? Oh, 1000% typo. Jeez. Let's try this one more time. Does that help? Not really. Don't think this is going to matter much, but I'm just going to try not going so extreme on the percentages here. Yeah, it's like it wants to go up and to the left. I seriously need to like find some body who knows what they're doing and ask them. This is like the kind of stuff that is incredibly frustrating when you just don't know what you are doing, you know. Yeah, let me I'm just going to throw these like fixed values instead of percentage values. Just to see what happens. That's not good. It's like it comes out of the corner. Let me actually let's slow this down. See what's really going on here. This this might be something that is better to put to the side until I can find someone with some expertise to polish animations. It is not expertise that I have, and it's not very fun for me. I can't imagine it's very fun for anyone watching to just watch me randomly make guesses that don't work out. So I will do some more research, I'll try to tweet at Jahay, on Twitter. Maybe he might be willing to drop some wisdom. But for now, let's just leave what we have, which is not perfect, but we've got the foundations in place. We've turned view transitions on. Oh, right, same origin. That's where I thought so. That's just for view transitions, not for morphing. Okay. Anyway, sorry, distraction. Yeah, I'm going to commit this stuff. Make the main content section internally scrollable. And set up some initial work in progress view transitions. Yeah. So not perfect. I want to get it perfect, but I think I need help to make it perfect. So I'm going to set that down and let's sprint on one last task before ending the stream. And I'm trying to think what I want that to be. And I think I'll do completed at. Like make this actually do something. So let's jump into it. And for those that haven't seen the previous streams, I like to commit all of my CLI commands as atomic commits. That's why I'm grabbing those contents there. Generate migration to add task completed at. And let's run the migration locally. Oops. Run the migration. Okay, so we have a completed at. Let's start here, and then we'll see if we make it to here. So what, just kind of clean up a little bit what I'm doing here. What do I want this to be? I want this to be a button 2, right? I am not a fan of, this is just a side note, but I'm not a fan of using links with the data turbo method attributes. Forms are great, and having a bunch of tiny forms on a page is fine and great. And so button 2 is a go-to helper for me. And I don't think that we need a distinct controller for this. I think we can just hit the tasks update action. Let me refresh myself here on how to add some attributes. Params, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's come up here. Oh, we want to make this a proper, tasks path. Yeah, I need that for now for Ruby to not yell at me. Icon. What is this icon's name? XLG. And we want to add the size 4 class. Okay, cool. Button 2. So button 2 takes a name or a block. I think we want to do a block. Yeah, let's sort of take this as our starting point. So we want to point the button at our task. We will and we will say action update. Where do I put classes form? Form class and params. So options and then HTML options. So I think that means form class and params. So params, we're going to say completed at time.current. And let's leave form class empty for now. And inside of our block, do we get rendered anything? So whatever we put inside of here gets put inside of our button submit. So I think that if I take these classes and pass those as HTML options, I can do icon check to square, MR2, complete. Let's see. Okay, we're close. So we've got our form, we've got our button, but our button is not getting our class from the HTML options. HTML options is what takes all of this. Oh, let me do this. Not quite. Let me try this. Okay. These method signatures can be funky. Yeah, it looks like I can just pass everything into the hash. There's no options is just like for the form. I don't have the name. Anyway, one set of options is working. We have our method input to mark this as a patch. So we're going to hit update. Our button, type submit, action update has all the classes we want. We've got our SVG, we've got our complete, we have our authenticity token, and we have our completed at attribute. Sorry about that. In the form. Cool. Let's go to our form. Our controller, sorry, and permit this attribute. And let's update. Whoops. Our rendering logic. So you complete something. Oh, goodness. Okay. I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to say that you can't edit the title of a completed item. How about that? Seems reasonable and is going to be, I don't know about much simpler. Maybe there's like an easy CSS attribute you can apply to text that will work in an input, but I don't think so. If the task is completed, we will render one path. Else, we will do that. So let's go into our task and let's just define this method. I don't need all of you. So this is our else condition. We're going to need to do some tab formatting. And yeah, Hassan, that is true. And we should make that change. Also, I want to make this switch more finer grain because I want to keep the form, because we will use the form element when we wire up these things. So we'll just make a switch on whether or not we, also this, I can get rid of this. This didn't help us. This is something I was trying when dealing with morphing, to try to wipe the value of the input on morph. Let's instead throw an H1 in here, and we will put the task title in there. Grab these classes. I don't think we need focus outline none. Don't need placeholder. Don't need BG transparent. Or that. I just want to come over here. Oh, right. Strike through. Strike. I've done this before. Where have I done this? Do I have a code pen? Text declaration line through. Ugh. Line through. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Keep these on the right side. Oh, and they also are doing a color. Text decoration color is what? Decoration. Okay. Decoration. Orange 500. Let's give this a try. What happened? Started patch. Passed up completed at. Bad request. Parameters. It's not under task. Well, that's not what we want. I want the param. Where's an example with params? I want this to be like that. Let's go look at our form. Task completed at. That looks better. Like here. So it did something. It updated. Why does our task not think that it is completed? Let's go jump into the console really quickly. What is this? This is number 12. Maybe because we are morphing, I need to give these shared IDs to say that we are going from do that. Okay. The text, they fade the color of the text as well. Let's say this is like text slate 500. Too faded. Let's go up. Let's go up one more. Oh, right. I'm dark mode. Sorry. Okay. Dark. So go back one more. Lighten it up a little bit. It's a bit too light, but that's okay. Let's jump to another one. Not quite. So it's not. Redirected to the task again. We should add flashes at some point. By the way, Hassan, I am absolutely going to make that refactor. I just want to figure out what is going on here on at the view layer first, because I am curious. Why is it like... It's not re-rendering this page, and therefore this partial, but it is redirecting and doing a view animation. I mean, the weeds a little bit here on Turbo Drive and Turbo Stream. I wonder if this has anything to do with the fact that we are morphing. Let's try turning morphing off and seeing what happens. Okay, turning morphing off. We see the behavior that we want. So there's something about using morphing that is altering this. So let's see what happens here. So we're still processing update as a turbo stream. We are still redirecting with 303. We're still processing show as a stream, rendering. Rendered. I see more allocations here. Wait. 9, 10. Okay, maybe not. Very, very interesting. Let's see what is happening with these requests. So this is coming back. To get through the list of the main content section. Okay, in here. Yeah, look at this. Look at what is going on here. So the response has our debug dump that we want to see. It's not rendered here. It has our H1 that we want to see. Okay, so on the server side, it is behaving as we want. This makes me think that we're dealing with turbo caching. Right? Because so we make a request. We get a 303 see other. So we make our GET request. That response has the updated content. The server did render the HTML that we want, but we don't see that HTML, though we do see a view transition. So the only thing that comes to my mind here is that maybe Turbo is trying to do something smart. And so maybe it is the case that when Turbo sees that you have stayed on the same page, right? So we start off on task 7. We make a post patch. We make a patch to task 7. The response to that patch is a 303 redirect back to task 7. We make the get to task 7, and we get the response. And when Turbo sees that response, maybe what it is thinking to itself is, oh, we haven't left the page. I'm just going to use the snapshot I took of tasks 7 before we patched, and I will put that back on the page. I don't know. That's the only thing that comes to mind because our response has the HTML that we want. But our DOM doesn't. I'm going to probably need to chat a little bit with Marco. But in the meantime, maybe we can do something wacky like this. I don't even know. So what is up? Complete. Yeah, that's doing what we want. I'm going to pull this out really briefly. But if I go back to the index, yeah, there's our metas. Yeah, Marco, I added IDs, the same ID to the H1 and to the form field. And in our response, let's complete another one. Let me clear this. Well, it's working now because I just turned off view transitions on show. Let me come back. Running out of tasks. Okay. Complete. Let's look at this. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Come up. So in our response from the server, we see our H1 with our ID, title task 3. When we look at this input, we see the input is here. It has the same ID, title task 3. So, and that's also why I added the pre-tag up here. So we had a pre-tag as well, and that wasn't changing, which is what's got me smelling something about Turbo Snapshot Cache. But in the interim, I actually think that this is not a bad idea, right? Is to selectively turn on morphing. And so if we turn morphing on when we're on the index view, but it's off by default, then when we're on the show view, it won't be here. We don't see the meta tags. And so we're going to get regular turbo drive. And that works. Now, not loving all of the view transition stuff. I also want to figure out a way to turn off view transitions, right? I only want a view transition when I'm coming from the index URL to the show URL. But that is another thing. Let's see here. Let's use check circle. Okay, just gonna make a. We're gonna say the same if. Yes, I agree. It does seem like a bug. I just don't know enough about the internals of how this morphing stuff was built to provide much debugging help here. Oops. I do this all the time. Put this in the wrong order. Yep, that is true. Okay, so I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to do a couple of refactorings here. So I'm going to say pass in this new param, and we're going to accept this. And how do I want to do toggling? I'm going to say completed equals value. Well, I don't think I need this off here. This is kind of hacky. I'm going to refactor this. But let's see how it works. I need to update the form. And we are updating completed out. Nice. So not perfect. We can polish some things, but we're making progress. All right, so what do I want to say? Selectively use turbo morphing on specific pages, like S index. Then I want to grab these lines. Replace static link with to helper in task partial. I selected too many lines of red. I'm realizing now. Add a button to helper to toggle the task completed at value. Either render, no, let's say here, render task title as H1 if task completed, or render as text input if not. Allow button to form to toggle task completed at. So we made some progress. It's looking good. Right before we leave, that's weird. I just want to see what this feels like without the view transitions. Yeah. Honestly, to my eyes, it is this is preferable, right? So it's like until we get the view transitions doing precisely what we want them to do, um, not having any view transitions is actually better, I think. Or at least it is for me, because and this is just my philosophy on usability. Um, Animations should be used very sparingly. They should be very fast, and they should never be distracting. Uh, so, having the card slide out and slide in every time you're just toggling completion is adding latency. It is distracting. It doesn't provide any utility. Um, so while I like the subtlety of the transitions and animations that are in Superlist, right? Like expanding the width and expanding and fading between those two states. And I do want to try to explore how to get the behavior that I want. I'm going to pull it out for now because when it's not doing what I want, it's in the way and it is making things ugly. Remove view transition support for now. So this was a productive session for me. Hopefully, no, Marco, it does not. That's one of the things I want to figure out is how to scope transitions to specific contexts. Because when you are moving from show 1 to show 2, the cards don't move at all. It is only when you are moving between a show and an index in one direction or the other that you see an animation, because it's only when you are moving between show and index that the distribution of the widths changes. And at the moment, I haven't been able how to figure out, or if it is possible, I'm not even sure, to scope the transitions in that way to say, if I'm transitioning from a show page to a show page, do no view transition. If I'm transitioning from an index page to a show page, do this view transition. And I think they are right? The UX is correct here. Transitioning between these show pages would be distracting, right? That's an animation that gets in the way. Yeah, I guess so. So maybe adding a the controller name and the action name to the body tag and scoping things that way. That's a good idea. Anyway, we will pick this back up tomorrow just as a closing recap on like where we're at. We now have our details view. The details view has the header that we want, has an actual functioning link so we can move between the index and the show view. Our main content section with the list of tasks has links to go to the show views. We have added a task completed attribute and wired up this button to actually toggle that value and to affect the header in the way that we want. We improved some of the skeletal HTML in CSS. Got this nice container query going here for our notice. So things are progressing well. We need to bring this completion logic over here, make these checkboxes. Right now, I mean, these are just icons. Perform the same action. Maybe we can find someone with some knowledge and wisdom on view transitions and improve those. Or we can tackle some more of these issues. So I will be streaming again tomorrow. We'll see where we get to. Thanks for hanging out. And if you come back tomorrow, I look forward to hanging out then. Otherwise, I will talk to you all later. Ciao, ciao.